Okay, before we start, I have to say that this is about me. Okay? That way we have an understanding that I'm not trying to attack anybody's faith, religion, belief, what you call God, what I call God, none of that. This is just about me and my relationship to Christianity. This is going to have some chit chat at the beginning. If somebody wants to timestamp when the reading starts, go for it. So, a little background. I was raised Baptist. We were basically, I went to two different types of churches. In the common vernacular, one would be called a black church, the other one would be called a white church. So, they both are pretty much the same, it's just the preachers were different. And so I went to church. It was all about saving souls and getting baptized and missionary this and all that kind of stuff. So the more I questioned, when I was coming up, I didn't question at all because I was sort of told that, lean not onto your own understanding. Don't question. But I am an inquisitive person. I have to question. Things have to be questioned with me. I have to know. I have to question. I have to ask. If I don't, it will bother me until I know. So, what ends up happening is one day, now this is not why I left, but just one day, I go and ask some questions to myself that some things just didn't make sense. Adam and Eve. That was the basis of the Bible. That's Genesis. Genesis means generation. That's the beginning. So, Adam and Eve. You create the man, then you create the woman. You give the man the rules, you didn't give the woman the rules. But why put the tree in the garden in the first place? Why tempt them? Why push the scale in that direction? I wrote a blog a long time ago. It's not published or anything or anywhere you can find. But I titled it, Measure Twice and Cut Once. Why create something just to make it fallible by your own creation? Why put the most perfect creatures you can imagine in the Garden of Eden and then put the temptation in there with them? They were set up to fail. So I questioned that. I'm like, why? That doesn't make any sense. So lean not unto your own understanding. Okay, fine. The devil. Why would God create a counterpart for himself or herself or itself? That doesn't make any sense. God didn't create evil, is what I'm thinking. So, you tell me the devil is defeated because God has all the power, and then when something goes wrong, you said the devil is alive and well. That too didn't make any sense. So I just began to question and question and question, and then lean not unto your own understanding keeps popping up. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just accept this as this is something I just don't understand. That's God's plan. That's God's work. Let him do it. Fine. Because my understanding of the divine is limited, so I'll just go with it. But then what they call church hurt happened. Church hurt is basically when you go to church and you get your feelings crushed. Something happens to where you're now in a bad place as far as church goes, and you blame all churches. So, my sister is a saint compared to me because she's like super Christian. But she's one of those that she doesn't judge. She loves you anyway. She turns the other cheek. Like, she lives that life. She really does. She is that person. Something goes wrong, you can call her. She's one of those. She's Jesus Jr., So she goes to the church. We're both at this church at the same time. And instead of coming to her siblings who don't have children, she goes to the church because, she's doesn't want to ask us for something. So she goes to them and asks them for money because she needs help paying a bill. She has 4 children she's raising by herself. They told her no. They said they can give her food, but they cannot give her money. And I'm like, well, you cannot pay your bill with green beans. So that kind of started me looking sideways at the church. And then that's when I come to the realization that, oh, it's a business. It's meant to run this way. So then I got away from the church. I'm like, no more church. Church is a business. This is not, the church is the people, not the building anyway. So I can just mingle with the people where they are. So later on down the line, I come across these things. Now, I've always, all of my siblings have psychic ability of some sort, whether it's just dreams or whether it's whatever. So we've always had this in our family, especially when it comes to dreams. I don't have dreams like that, but especially when it comes to dreams. So I was thinking, what can I do? I got like boxes of crystals and things like that. Like, what can I do to increase my understanding of what it is to be psychic, have better psychic ability, all this kind of stuff? And I run across tarot cards, and then that was the end. I was like, yeah, I got to have these. I got to pick this up. I got to go with this. This is the thing that I want. My very first deck is actually, somebody gave me the idea to put it in the windowsill. They said it's supposed to increase the power and all that, but this is the book I had. My very first one from Barnes & Noble. It's all tattered and beaten because I wore the heck out of this book. But anyway, so I go on and I used the tarot for about a year, and then I put it down, and then I didn't pick it up anymore. But I still was never going to return to the church. And then the more I looked, the more scandals they had. The more I looked, the more it seems like all they cared about was money. And then you live in the Bible Belt like I did, and churches are bigger than football stadiums. Meanwhile, there's children in the world that go to bed hungry, and you got these debt-free, tax-free churches, and I just could not understand the correlation. Then it brought me back to, oh, it's supposed to run this way. It's a business. So then I run across Christians who don't quite get where I would pick up something like this, saying that I was once a preacher, and then I get called the devil. Oh, you're going to hell, or I'm going to pray for you, but they don't pray for you out of love. They're praying as a weapon because they want God to do something to you. That way you wake up and see the light. So now, where I am now, why did I leave? So I want to know what the tarot has to say as to my exit, because in my opinion, it's just my opinion now. If you believe in the devil, I'm going to tell you who does the devil's work more than anybody on earth. Not somebody evil, because that's where you expect it from. But somebody religious. And I say that because if I was lost, as they call it, and I see this light in you, you have that inner light. Jesus has touched you, or whatever you believe. I say, where'd you get that light from? And then you tell me, oh, you got it from here. Come join me at church. And then I go to church, and then all I hear is God hates this, and God hates that, and God hates this, and God hates you. Yeah, I'm leaving. I don't need to be beat up at the church. So now the devil's, I guess, plan is to separate creator from creation. You have now helped him do that. You've done his work and you didn't even know it. Queen of Cups. There's a woman, or maybe this is just the emotion, because my sister is sort of, her situation sort of gave me a bad taste for the church, but she's not a Queen of Cups, but it just could be the emotional state. News, bad news, disappointing news, delayed news. Queen of Swords. There's more news. Interesting. Okay, so we have two women and they both surround news. Now, there are not two women in my life that had anything to do with me leaving the church. My sister had, her situation was more of, this is why Christianity. This is why I left the church, not why I left Christianity. Christianity had something to do with what I learned. I learned that you couldn't tell me the answer. And so I would rather just draw closer to God than religion, seeing as how God has no religion. This is all man-made. Indecision. This was me. This is still kind of me. Because I read all kinds of things, and one of the things that I read is a story of like Gilgamesh and the story of Horus, where the idea of Immaculate Conception is not new. Jesus was not the first. The story of Horus predates Jesus Christ. The story of Horus is, I think it's Iris and Osiris. That was his mother and his father. Iris is his mother, I think. And Osiris is killed. I could be getting this wrong, but this is Google it yourself. Osiris is killed. They chop off his penis. They throw it in the river, and an alligator eats it. This is just a story. This is not what happened. So this isn't real. This is meant to be just a story. So his wife, Iris, then not only brings him back to life, but she creates for him a golden penis. And then they have Horus out from her magic. And so the Immaculate Conception story is not new. So then I come to this indecision to where I'm thinking, this whole Jesus story, because mind you, if there is life outside of this planet, they don't have a Jesus. Do they have a heaven? And why is it that you would need to send Jesus down here to die for our sins when you could have just not created sin in the first place? So then I begin to just question, and there's the inner conflict. And so I'm not comfortable saying that there is no Jesus. So I have this inner conflict because I'm raised to believe that there is. And here is your bound and binding. So the Eight of Swords is being trapped, being powerless, being limited, being restricted. And that was me. That is me still, because I still have a religious base to me that I can't completely let go. There's the Seven of Cups. This is confusion. This is in the fear. This is what I fear. I don't like not knowing. Now, there are some things that you're not meant to know or that you're not going to know. I'm fine with the things that I don't need to know. Like what happens to you when you die, I don't actually care. I just really don't. But what I do want to know is why? Why religion? That's what I want to know. Why do I need to be religious? Why do I need to be a Christian? Why do I need to be in a belief system that says this is the one way to go? If you don't go this way, you go to hell. That didn't make any sense to me. That's why I don't believe in the devil or the hell, because that doesn't make any sense. Six of Swords. Progression. Moving to a better time, moving to a deeper time. That's me. I'm a Gemini. This is the King of Swords. And I'm not the Knight of Swords because I am actually older than most people think. But there you go. Moving on. Two of Cups. There's a new bond. A new relationship and a new understanding. I am not religious because I am not supposed to be. God has no religion, neither do I. I still don't know who these people are, but whatever. Oh, shut your face. Okay. Yeah, that's probably who that is. I don't know her sign, but the person, this Josephine Ellershaw wrote that book. That's what started it. This is the new news and the good news and the better news and all that stuff. That's what started it. The bad news surrounding this woman is what started my breaking off. This started my progression to the indecision, to the inner conflict, to the sort of bound and worried, to the confusion, to the better time. There's me, and then there's my bond. So then there's the King of Cups. That makes sense. The person who bought me that deck is a Cancer. This is the King of Cups. I didn't actually buy those cards I showed you. Well, I didn't actually show you the card, but somebody else bought this. That's that person. Seven of Pentacles is the Harvest, the Strength, the High Priest. Okay, so we have the Seven of Pentacles. That is your Harvest card. That makes total sense. This was planted in me. I have always had, now this may sound strange to some, may not sound strange to others. I have always had spirits in me and around me. When I was a child, I always thought I was a bit possessed because I would look in the mirror and my own eyes would scare me. Like there was something darker there. But when I got baptized, that was broken. So then I was like, okay, I understand now. This is the way I should go. But it was a ritual. That's all a baptism is. Which is so funny when people call you a witch. That's all religion does, is witchcraft. They just call it something else. A prophet and a psychic is the same thing. If you ask me, if you ask them, it's different. So this is what was always in me. The new age, the spiritual realm. Because again, God has no religion. This is strength, courage, wisdom. Always in me. There's the church. The high priest. And then balancing in a chaotic environment. Underneath, can you see these? Probably not. Bring it closer. Whatever. So underneath that which was always seated in me is the Wheel of Fortune. This is good luck and the turning of fate. This was meant to happen. I've always felt as though I had an audience that I had to speak to, not wanted to speak to, because I live a life of servitude, but I like that. That actually makes me happy to serve other people. So this is something that I'm supposed to offer to the world, that which was seated in me. The strength and the wisdom. There's the Apprentice. Hard at work, starting your journey. Because this has only started last year. December 6th, I started this channel. I've been reading tarot, though, for like 13 years. Under the church, the happy home. I don't have anything bad to say about Christians, other than those who change the meaning of what they read out of the Bible. Under the chaotic environment is the Queen of Wands. This is the person in my deck that represents my sister. Underneath my seated in the fate is the high drama and anxiety. Now, as far as my new age, like I said with these cards, is I've never been 100% comfortable with walking away from something that I was ingrained in. Because I am willing to say, and like I said, this is about me, so I'm not attacking your religion, but it's brainwashing. And it is hard to walk away from that when you spent 20-something years of your life being brainwashed. So there is still a level of discomfort that I feel when it comes to religion. Under the Apprentice is the reset. It changed everything. These things, this tarot literally changed everything. Because my outlook changed. And there's the money man under the church. Because that's all I see now. You want me to come to your church not so I can be a holy person, but because I can be someone you can draw money from. Underneath my sister, though, is the elevated person. She is an elevated person in her church because she does still serve in a church. Underneath the drama is a sturdy foundation, which lets you know it will all work out. Underneath the reset, King of Wands, authority. And then burden under the money man and the church. That just lets me know I'm going in the right direction. And then the star underneath the elevated person. So I still get people, because I still live in an area where it is still the Bible Belt, that invite me to church. But basically what this is saying is this was meant to happen. And one of them asked me a question one time. He said, prove to me that God doesn't exist. I said, you want me to prove to you that something's not there? He said, yes. I said, well, conversation over. Because it makes no sense. Didn't say there was no God. I said, I'm not a Christian, but you didn't hear that part. All you heard is what you wanted to hear. Balance in a chaotic environment. Sometimes it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but it is always the most necessary thing to do.